This is the call to order. This is the German Village Commission hearing. It is August 2nd, 2023, 4:01 p.m. We're here at 111 North Front Street, second floor, room 204. The next business meeting will be Wednesday, August 23rd, 2023 at 12 p.m. noon here at 111 North Front Street, second floor, room 204. The next hearing will be Wednesday, September 6th, 2023 at 4 p.m. here at 111 North Front Street, second floor, room 204. Go ahead and swear in staff. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
And your name?
Nicole Urson.
Thank you very much. I'll move on to the introduction of commissioners present. We'll start on the right this time.
Charissa Durst.
Anthony Hartke, Chair.
Ned Thiel.
AJ McIvan.
And we'll first start off with items for public forum. We do have one speaker slip to public forum. Mr. Michael Cornels.
Hi, thank you. I'm here representing the German Village Society and the president of the German Village Board of Directors. And I just wanted to let you know that my constituency has asked me to come here today to speak on the behalf of the challenge with regard to the quorum. We would like you to know that we are in favor of keeping the quorum rules as is and not going to majority rule. And that is my statement.
Right.
I also have a letter on that behalf from our executive director.
Sure. And then we can,
Thanks.
thank you very much. We'll move on to the staff approvals. The approvals begin on page 6 of the agenda. Folks time to review to see if any recusals required.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I have to recuse myself from 630 Mohawk Street and from 275 East Whittier.
If there are no other recusals, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to ratify the staff approvals.
Second.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor? Against? Ayes have it, motion passes. Moving on to approval of minutes from last meeting, July 5th, 2023.
I move to approve.
Second.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Ayes have it, motion passes. Moving on to the applications for certificates of appropriateness. Item 1, GV-23-08-023, 188 Concord Place. An applicant here for 188 Concord Place.
The applicant had a family emergency today, and asked that staff move forward with the application.
Let's go ahead.
This application is for landscaping for a tree removal. The application is a result of a code violation. The violation number is 4525.11. To remove a silver maple tree on the southeast corner of the yard is indicated by city violation letter. To remove a black locust tree on the northeast corner of the yard is indicated in the city violation letter. And this application is in response to the staff analysis. This application is in response to a code violation. The code violation is requiring the trees to be removed for concerns over safety from the city of Columbus. Staff recommendation is that staff recommends approval with any well verifications be submitted to HPO staff for review and approval prior to the issuance of certificate with the following condition, and that condition being the applicant provide a proposed replacement tree and proposed tree locations. The basis for the staff recommendation is 311613 standards for site improvements A. And after the materials were sent out, the applicant did email and confirm their intent to plant 2 crabapple trees, the Chloraburst, to replace the above listed trees. They're listed as being 2 15-gallon trees. Or GAL, I think that is per gallon, but I don't know.
All right. Questions, comments from the commission?
Yeah, I need some clarification on this. per 452511, it talks about holes or dead or dying trees so that afford a safe passage and use and in good repair. The analysis says that the black locust can be salvaged and work can be done on it. So I don't think this absolutely requires for that tree to be removed.
Maple,
The maple, obviously, yes, based on the analysis, but based on the arborist report, the black locust, no. So is that the desire of the owner, or were they not given that opportunity or that question?
After speaking with code and I spoke with code enforcement about this violation, and they want to move forward with the removal of both trees due to the just difficulty of saving the second.
I think that exceeds the law, and I don't think they have authority to do that.
Not code enforcement, sorry. The applicant wants to move forward with that. Just
Okay.
didn't, sorry.
It's unfortunate they're not here because I would like to hear them say that.
I understand.
do we have a location of where the proposed trees are gonna go? Back in the same spot, different locations?
Let me clarify the materials.
It's any map or anything included.
All I have in the material is to replace the above listed trees.
So my comment is it's a perfectly valid tree that needs some arborist work. And I don't think that justifies taking it down.
And they're gone already, correct? The work's already completed?
The work is not been completed.
Complete, okay.
I guess my point is that they came to this without the arborist report, without the city saying, hey, it's gotta come down. We would probably say, hey, you need to look into salvaging the tree.
So, the commission, I would say, if there's no other concerns with the maple coming down, if that's something that we would approve, would you be comfortable at a minimum splitting the application to approve that one without having the new tree locations identified? Or we need to have that locations
In
identified
my opinion, I think that's the way to go.
to split it and go, or?
Split it, because I think the maple does need to come down.
Yep.
But then the other one, we need to have a conversation.
Trisha, any thoughts on the focused?
I agree with, until they're here to, just to hear from them that that's what they want to do and
So we've got,
contrary to the report.
so we got 2 out of 4, so I don't think we can move forward with locust in the applicant's favor. So I think for their purposes, I think we be best to split. Can we split without the applicant being here and requesting the split? I think we can. We're not taking adversity or anything.
Well, that I don't know.
I mean, can I guess temporarily swear in for this to speak?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Just wait for the truth.
I do. Morgan Brown is the name. I think it'd be fine. I mean, the applicant wants to remove the tree, so approving of one tree removal would be fine and then continuing.
We're not taking any adverse action against
Yeah.
them, so.
And the applicant's not here, so the absence also, constitutes a continuation if needed, so.
All right, so with that being said, is there a motion to split?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, on GV 2308-023-188 Concord Place, I move to split it into A and B. A being for the maple tree and B being for the condition of the black locust.
Second,
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Against? Ayes have, it, motion passes, so we have split.
Mr. Chairman, on GV 2308-023-A, I move to approve as submitted,
second,
which is the removal of the tree
Including a replacement.
and including the replacement.
All right, so we have a motion, we have a second. Any questions on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Against? Ayes have it, motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, item GB 2308-023, Part B, I move to continue.
Second.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Against? Ayes have it, motion passes. All right, moving on to
Thank you.
item number 2, GV-22-10-025, 606 Raider Alley. And once you're all settled, you please raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
And please state your name for the record.
Mason Kenny with Kenny Landscape.
You?
And I'm here representing Mike Dalton.
You just pull the microphone over. Yeah, you do. All right, staff?
Proposed work description is for landscaping of a concrete patio. It's the installation of a backyard concrete patio parking area. The patio is 26 feet by 22 feet by 4 feet. Half of the concrete patio is to have a 3/4 inch brick installed over the top. The work includes the removal of a wood privacy fence, the installation of a new metal fence, and the fence to include a double gate and a single gate, with the fence to be 4 feet in height. The removal of a tree and installation of new plantings, including emerald arborvitae, and the work has been done prior to COA approval and has received a code violation. Staff analysis, as stated previously, the work has been done prior to the approval and received a code violation for the work. The applicant has removed the wood fence and gate, the brick patio, the tree has replaced the concrete steps. From what it appears, the previous brick patio was being used as an off-street parking spot, but the brick patio did not cover the entire rear yard as seen with the present hardscaping. The tree also appears to be a mature tree, but according to the applicant, the tree was previously removed due to it being dead and struck by lightning. As seen in a similar case in November 2020, a concrete walkway was poured in 640 Mohawk prior to approval with a brick paver installed on top of the gravel bed. The condition for that approval was for holes to be drilled every 12 inches of the existing concrete to allow water to flow through. The applicant returned in January with revised plans to resolve the amount of poured concrete installed, and they proposed to install a 3/4 inch thick brick over half of the patio. The revision also includes a new metal fence and gate to be reduced to 4 feet in height. Staff is still concerned with the amount of concrete that is being proposed and to be retained, as well as water draining issues. The following is taken from the approved January 4th, 2023 GDC hearing minutes. Commissioner comments. Commissioner Foley was concerned over the feasibility of the brick veneer on a horizontal surface and requested product cut sheets or technical data sheets, as well as a method of installation on the concrete. Commissioner Foley inquired if there were any proposed methods to mitigate water displacement. He recommended installing a French drain around the concrete perimeter. Some commissioners were concerned over the removal of the tree and how this would be addressed. Commissioners requested information on how the tree would be addressed. Commissioners requested information about the following: the transition between the brick and non-brick section of the patio parking pad, a cut sheet or technical data sheet for brick veneer product, how the product will be installed over the concrete, a sample material, a site plan or sketch of where the brick material will be placed on the patio, including fence placement. Commissioners are in agreement with the proposed 4-foot fence, pattern information for how the brick would be laid, and a proposed solution for addressing the tree. The applicant has returned with product specification information, drawings showing the brick veneer and gate, and a site plan. At the August business meeting, the commission had no additional comments or requests for information. The recommendation is that staff recommends that the commission offers feedback and continue the application to discuss a solution for proper drainage in a future hearing. The basis for staff recommendation is 311618, approvals required C, 311613, standards for site improvements A, and the German Village Guidelines, exterior considerations for walks, sidewalks, driveways, patios, and parking lots 1 and 2.
All right. Anything else to add?
Let me state, I did not do the install of the concrete or any of the tree removal. I'm just here to come up with a resolution to help them.
Questions, comments from the commission?
I can't remember us ever having this kind of a system proposed before. Mohawk, they did install a full depth brick paver over the concrete and then tapered it down. They removed the end of the concrete to get it tapered down to the sidewalk. Don't know why that can't happen here, other than you're gonna have a lip.
I think part of what help that the other property was drilling the holes for drainage.
Okay, yeah.
And this eliminates all potential for holes for drainage.
Yep.
Essentially treating that entire driveway as sheeting off into
Yeah.
adjacent garage or right away.
And where the brick veneer is gonna meet the concrete, they're gonna miter. I talked to the installers, we don't do that kind of install, but I did talk to them, and they said they'll miter the brick so that it's a flush transition to where the concrete does meet.
So they're shaving the brick veneer down,
So at the edge of it, yeah,
but it's only 3/4.
but it's 3/4 in, so I guess they could shave it down to where it meets it or something, but
Find that.
I know, I've never done any of these installs before. I talked to the guy. It seems like it holds up really well, but
I think at play, just to state for the record, at play is several items. One is material choices, obviously. The fact that we still have a concrete drive parking pad as opposed to brick. So that's one issue. Putting the brick veneer is attempting to mitigate half of that issue. But the underlying issue of drainage, we've had other applications where we've had concrete poured. One solution was to drill holes through concrete to get the drainage. The second project where it happened, there was an engineer's report looking at the drainage to stay under seal. That is not going to cause excess cheating, it's going to retain the water on the site, et cetera.
sure.
So
I did, when I was over there, I mean, it's definitely all the water is sloping towards the street and it all drains out really well. But I understand, yeah.
is there a reason, is the brick veneer not traffic rated? Is that a reason why it's not being put across the entire concrete?
I didn't ask that question. I've looked into it, like in other companies, I've seen them use it as a driveway source, so it appears that it could be used as a driveway. I personally wouldn't trust having that much weight over it. But I can ask the installer to do.
I want to say, Anthony, we had a conversation about it, and previously there had been a partial brick patio back there, but not the whole thing. And I think we had a conversation about the fact that we let concrete garage approaches off of alleys. And we kind of said maybe this would be okay here, but certainly not the part where they're not parking. And that's why we got to the brick on one side.
Okay.
I think that's how we got it.
Okay.
I just don't, I'm just not comfortable with this brick solution.
Well, the brick literature says it has to be on a concrete base that will not crack. You guarantee that.
You can't.
So to the point of, if we can get past the product and say the product is acceptable in the orientation shown of drive staying concrete, this being applied on top of the patio portion, is tapering required? I don't see a reason why we would require it to be tapered.
Okay,
I don't
It
either.
would be like having a driveway with a brick patio and then not being the same level. We wouldn't go into that detail on our application.
Well, and to me, the same thing, full depth brick would not have to be tapered.
Right. So then it comes down to the water retention issue of making a completely impermeable lot, essentially.
one thing I did, suggest too is just doing like a gravel French drain with like river rock or some ornamental aggregate. Cause there is that bed that's like right near that garage where I could dig that down, or the installer could dig that down 6-8 inches and then have a gravel base there. So that way some of the water can run off there and then the rest.
But most of the water heads north to Willow.
What was that?
Most of the water heads north to Willow.
Yeah, most of it does, yeah. Yeah.
I'm not comfortable with this as a as a big paver solution.
If it was full pavers, would that be an issue?
Yeah, that's what we normally do. Yeah, it's what we normally do.
So it's really, it's the product.
What about Bluestone?
We allow bluestone and black patios too.
And we would allow bluestone on top of concrete bases.
No, you don't, on top of concrete.
We haven't in the past
Okay,
been ruling in favor of it recently.
okay,
But you'd have to have a sand underlayment between, a layer of sand between the concrete and the bluestone.
okay,
So
instead of
you'd
just.
have to treat that edge
Yeah,
somehow. That's
okay.
not to say you couldn't. You can saw cut it and put a curb in.
Right, because we've done that, I know we've done that in some applications where we'll just screen an inch of nines or sand.
Yeah.
And then do the Bluestone over top,
But you still gotta treat the edge, which is, you know,
right?
I'm not saying you couldn't cut the concrete and put a curb in to hold it.
Yeah. Just trying to come up with some sort of option,
Mhm.
so he doesn't have to rip out everything.
We're trying to get there too.
Yeah,
So I'm in the position now of if we set the precedent previously of we would allow concrete under pavers. I think that gets us past the paver issue. I think that there is an ability to get as much effort to retention as possible, digging out whatever we can, obviously without undermining the adjacent garage.
yeah,
Whatever we can do to try to encourage the watershed to get places that aren't gonna just sheet constantly.
mhm.
I think it comes down to the paver solution. So that you've stated you're against that paver product as a solution here. Trista?
I don't want to start down that road with this stuff.
Yeah, I don't like the fact that it says it has to be installed on a base that will not crack. Like if the concrete
Yeah.
cracks, then there goes the paper.
Yeah. Or brick will not be affected by that.
AJ, any thoughts on the product?
Like that.
Okay, so it sounds like it's the vast majority of who's there. I think if you went to a full paver solution,
Yeah,
that gets an option. But I think we would need to understand what that curb condition is going to be before we could approve what's going to be there.
the curb like around the perimeter of
A
the,
curb, something to retain that brick in place.
okay, what if we did like limestone edging, like Indiana limestone to curb around it, would that
I mean,
work?
we've seen that
So now we
Has-
use that
has
a
it-
lot.
technically has that work. I mean, you're gonna cut the
So
cover
we would
instead of dig,
dig.
you're gonna.
Cause you're just talking about like where it meets the driveway,
Yeah.
pretty much, so we would. I mean, we'd have to cut out a piece of the concrete and then sink a limestone edge down in there and have it meet the top of the brick. Be the only other option to get curving in there, can't let it just sit on top of the concrete, so,
It won't hold, you're right.
yeah. The other option. I mean, or if we did, like 6-inch treads and just brought up the whole patio and almost made it all raised where the patio is, and then it'll just be a 6-inch step up and then have the brick in there.
What would your 6-inch step be then?
Indiana limestone.
Oh, okay. How you can anchor it though? You got freeze, thaw.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to say, check on all the levels of the driveway itself too, or the pad.
Just me looking at it right now, I would assume that if you put a curb in, the curb would be to the right of the gate post. Because that's kind of where the drive is anyway. The apron. You have to have something around the entire footprint to hold that brick in place.
Yeah,
Whatever anchoring is necessary, whether it's at the top of the concrete.
oh yeah, we
Outside
got
kind
that
of-
all closed in,
I
yeah.
think that, is that something we would let staff?
Now, at Mohawk, they used an extruded aluminum edge to retain that brick.
Like an exterior schluter.
Yeah.
in lieu of a line.
Yeah.
You could
It's
use it.
real thin and then they backfilled against it, or brought the grade up against it. I think it's anchored to the slab underneath.
Okay,
The brick sits on top of the holes. It's 3, 4 years later, that brick is in place, it's still tight.
yeah. Where's that at?
Mohawk, just north of Sycamore,
Okay,
great L-shaped gray house.
okay. Yeah, could look into something like that, or he said just cut part of the concrete out and just sink the limestone down in there and have it, then we can do the limestone on the board, like right behind the arborvitae's. That, we wouldn't have to cut out any concrete, we could just build that up and
Mhm.
put our edging along there to retain it.
So for the commission, are we comfortable with that option going to staff for approval? Or is that something we need to see come back to us?
You need to talk to your owner.
Yeah, I'd have to talk to him, just kind of see, I mean, he's running out of options at this point. I think he's ready to move on and go to the next step and
Yeah.
get some pricing back to him on what something like that's gonna cost, so
You still just.
he's willing to,
Brick?
So the options for you and your client, we can continue, which kind of gets nothing further. You got options of what we've talked about.
yeah,
Option 2, we can try to vote on approving it with those options amended. That gives the applicants, the owner, something to actually go and do right away.
yeah.
Or we could vote on it as is, which would get denied, and then there's the appeals process. So there's kind of 3 options we can do here. I would like to proceed.
I think we go with the option 2, the brick option. Is that what you're suggesting with the one we were just talking about?
And I think we could approve that with either a sandstone curb, like you stated, cutting it in,
Yeah.
or the extruded aluminum condition as an edge guard.
Okay.
That won't work at the concrete.
Would the commission like to consider a subcommittee for this proposal, this application?
I'd be okay with it.
Subcommittee of 4.
How would we-
Sorry.
We would need what? 3 for subcommittee or 2?
2 max.
2? Ned, would you want to do a subcommittee?
Sure.
I'll be the second unless somebody else has a desire.
AJ, you want to do it?
Sure.
AJ can do it.
So,
I'm already on one, for something else, I can't remember what it is.
so fast forward here, you'd like to amend your application to have full depth pavers on top of the concrete on the patio portion. And the edge condition, we'll have to go to our subcommittee of 2 to get final approval.
Okay. That works.
That good? That good?
Yes. Except for the tree. Because the tree was fine when they took it down. They need to replace it.
How do we replace the tree? I don't see a solution for that.
I was trying to come up with a way to figure that part into it too, and when I'm standing back there, I mean, there's not a lot of room for a tree, especially one that large. I mean, that thing was like
Well,
right on the
We're
garage.
not asking you to put one in that big.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
But it was just, I mean, it's like a 400 square foot area. It's hard for them to be able to have the driveway, of course, and then have a little seating area, but
Is there any, from a landscape perspective, any trees that would fit along that south edge along the fence or on the north edge by the alley, cutting out a portion of the concrete or anything?
Or me.
Hornbeam?
like on the closest to us side where those 3 arborvitae's are.
Or me can be trimmed easily.
Yeah, they tolerate a lot of
Yeah.
pruning.
Yeah.
You could do hornbeams. Are you not a fan, like, as opposed to the arborvitae's? Do something?
No, the fact that the tree came down,
Shade tree.
shade tree,
Yeah,
we have a position where we need to replace them.
okay, so remove those arborvitae's and do three horn.
Leave the arborvitae and get a horn beam in too.
I don't think there's enough room for both of them, but
You know better.
yeah, I think what we'd have to do is we could do two horn beams there, because even horn beams, they still get
Yeah,
pretty
they,
big,
yeah.
but I can suggest doing two horn beams.
I'd be okay with two horn beams.
Okay,
I think that gets us past that impasse of the tree.
Okay, yeah, that works.
And if your client wants to change their mind, they can always come back and reapply. I want to get.
That's easier than
forward with.
cutting out the concrete and putting in a tree in the center, so
Yeah.
I think he'll be okay with that.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion for how the raised brick will interact with this stair that's in the rear yard?
In my opinion, it's the rear yard, so if the brick comes up to the bottom step and surrounds it, it's just gonna be a small tiny step down below and then up to the rest. It needs to be tapered to meet that bottom step. I think that's up to the installation. I think that's really gonna hold us up. Using weirder conditions in the past.
Mhm.
All right. So you asked to amend your application to have full depth pavers in lieu of the Smith Slim paver option. And then the horn beams and the edge condition around the patio being
Indiana line.
limestone, treated, something of that nature to go to this committee of two for final approval.
Yep.
Okay.
Sounds good.
You got that?
Just confirming the two committee members.
Which, oh, you me to do it, is that you?
That's what you.
I'll do it, so, all right, myself and Christine. Well,
I'm one already. That's what,
all right,
get more people involved.
Nicole, you good?
yes.
All right, is there a motion?
Yeah. On, GV 2210-025, I move to approve as amended with a full depth paver, a limestone type curb to be determined by a subcommittee, between the concrete and the paver, some kind of edging material around the pavers on the other three sides, and proposed horn beams on the south side along Willow. Is that it?
North side.
North side, thank you. North side along Willow.
I did a question. Does the full depth brick paver need to be on sand base or is that installed directly in concrete?
Sand base.
Sand bases.
Is there a second?
Second,
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Against? Ayes have it, motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on, item number 3, GV-23-06-029, 307 East Columbus Street. Applicant here for 307 East Columbus Street. Put that one on hold. Move ahead to item number 4, GV-23-07-023, 291 East Livingston. What? Once you're all settled, if you please raise your right hand.
Yes,
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
yes, I do.
And please state your name for the record.
Oliver Holtzberry.
Thank you very much. Paul?
This proposed work description is for signage to install one non-illuminated projecting sign on the west elevation. The sign is measuring 6 square feet, it's 24 inches by 36 inches. It's attached via 3-inch by 3-inch by 1/8 inch wall aluminum tubes welded to a 1/2 inch thick aluminum mounting plate. Sign facing is a 1-inch by 1-inch aluminum tubing adhered flat. All surfaces painted black and all graphics are cut white vinyl. And the sign is mounted to the wall with 4 3/8 by 3-inch long masonry screws painted black. It's also to install one non-illuminated wall sign on the west elevation, sign measuring 24 inches by 36 inches. The sign panels be flat black ACM with cut white vinyl graphics. And the sign is mounted flush to the brick wall with a 4 1-inch diameter brushed aluminum pucks. The following is taken from the now approved GVC July 2023 hearing minutes. Commissioner comments. Commission identified the following issues with the proposed sign package: the size of both signs, the location of the second wall sign, the amount of signage, and the content of the wall sign. Typically, only one sign is approved per building. For the blade sign, the commission may support the sign if it were smaller, 6 square feet or smaller, and utilize 1 bar instead of 2 to support the sign. For the other sign, the wall sign, the commission suggested making the sign much smaller and relocating it to one of the brick pillars closer to the parking lot. The sign's content should also be simplified. There is a Starbucks on Livingston Avenue that can be seen as an example for how to handle parking signs, but the sign should not be business-oriented. The applicant applied the feedback from the July hearing and amended their design to decrease the size of both signs, make the blade sign attached via only 1 bar, and decrease the content on the parking sign. At the August business meeting, the commission requested the applicant amend their design to show signs attached via mortar joints, not the brick base, and the applicant has amended the design. Staff recommendation is that staff recommends approval with any and all clarifications to be submitted to HBO staff for review and approval prior to the issuance of certificate, with the following condition, and that condition being that the first sign is approved, the second sign is removed from the sign package. The basis for the staff recommendation is 311613, Standards for Site Improvement C, and Dearborn Village Guidelines, Design Considerations, Guidelines for Graphics and Signage, and just that section from guidelines.
Anything else to add?
No, I think we tried to take most of you guys' recommendations from the last meeting and change things appropriately. On the wall sign there, we did make it a lot smaller and took the business names off of it. So we could try to get that one back there close to where the clients park at. Those are all my comments.
Questions, comments from the commission?
Thanks for getting the front sign down to size and everything. The only comment I would make that's not mentioned is that with that sign should be mounted through the mortar joints, not the brick.
Yep. We put them, we show them in the mortar joints
Okay.
now as well.
It should be stayed.
Mhm.
And I think the other conversation was, we had talked about this sign in the back of the building actually going down in one of the piers towards the alley, from what I remember. At Blankner.
Yes, that is reflected in the minutes from July.
Okay. I think that was because one sign per building.
So basically saying, the projecting sign on the front is fine, and then on the back sign, just basically knowing that.
I think it's not on the building, but probably due to a case on Whittier that we did years ago, moving it down to the pier at the end of at Blankner Alley.
Okay,
I would say from my perspective, any one of those piers that's up on the screen now, if you look back towards the north side, there's kind of the person gate on that wall, I think would be appropriate. Kind of so off the building onto that wall. I think anywhere along there, you could do the sign mounted to the fence. I think would be another solution that would work. Put the sign on a post in the planting area, I think that would work. Just the fact of having the sign attached to the building, when we have typically one sign per building, unless there's a historic precedent otherwise, I think that's the hurdle we have. So I think it's, the option's yours. Is there another place you'd like to put it, or do you want to adamantly keep it on the building?
I think we could definitely put it on one of the brick areas right there, or right in there. I think either one would work. So yeah, I would be in favor of that.
Are we okay approving it with question for the commission, approving with the general statement of along the brick landscape wall by the person gate,
Are we saying anywhere but on the building?
anywhere about the building?
Right. And not to exceed the size they've already proposed.
Yeah.
They have to shrink it to fit, it's shrunk to fit.
Mhm.
I agree with you, Anthony, on the pier, on the fence, on a post.
Is there a location you'd like to pick here, or you want to leave it open to talk?
I think I may need to talk to my client about the exact location. But I think we could make something work there.
I would recommend we have it go to staff for final approval for that sign location.
Yep.
So the client has amended the application. Is there a motion?
On GB 2307-023, 291 East Livingston Street, I move to approve as amended that the proposed sign 291 parking to the south be relocated on either the pier, the fence, or a post, which will be approved by staff.
There's
Second,
a second. Any questions on the motion?
And mount through the mortar joint.
Through the mortar doors. Okay, there's no questions. All those in favor? Against? Ayes have it, motion passes.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you very much. Moving on to item number 5, which is GB-23-08-024, 757 City Park. Well, let the record show that the applicant is previously sworn in, so it's still under oath.
Yes, the proposed work description is for landscaping and hardscaping. To install a new bluestone patio in the rear yard per submitted landscape plan. The bluestone pavers to be installed in the sunken patio area. To install a new brick walkway alongside of house per submitted landscape plan. To install new limestone steps out of the house on the south elevation entrance. To install new limestone steps for the entrance to the patio. Install Indiana limestone retaining walls around the perimeter of the patio. And to plant new plantings and the plantings are listed in the agenda. For staff analysis, in 2021, the commission approved a new addition to the rear of the building as GB-21-01-027. The approval included construction of a new brick wall on the north property line. At the August business meeting, the commission had no comments or requests for information. Staff requested product or cut sheets for the pavers and brick. The staff recommendation is that staff recommends to continue the application to allow the applicant time to amend the design to better align with German Village guidelines and city code. The basis of the staff recommendation is 311613, standard for site improvements A. German Village guidelines, walkways, sidewalks, driveways, patios, and parking lots, 1, 2, 4, and 5.
Anything else to get?
Nope.
Questions, comments from the commission?
so is this a trend you've noticed that people just want their entire backyard paved with a narrow strip planting bed around the perimeter?
People want the lowest amount of maintenance you could ask for now. But it was tiered. She's been a client of mine for the last 3 years. I didn't have pictures until after they did all the reno and stuff like that, but it was already tiered down there before, and then there was a brick patio in, so it was already sunken down too. And the way the foundation is now, you tell how high up it is.
I have no objections to anything they're doing, but I got a question for HBO staff on this. We're seeing more and more of these rendering presentations or submittals, I'll put it that way, without dimensions.
Oh, there should be dimensions on the 2D.
But I'm not seeing how far stuff is off the property line, that kind of stuff. And I think we get a gist of what you're talking about. But I think actually for submittal to go to HBO for them to give you appropriateness, I think we need those dimensions on there,
Okay,
okay?
yeah, okay.
Do you agree?
I agree. What's what can happen is the existing condition could be the fences over the property line, and now we're putting plantings on the other person's property. So it's kind of the underlying issue is we've got to know where the boundary, where the site constraints are.
Okay,
Because we can only approve what's in the applicant's property.
okay.
We should have brought this up.
Yeah.
Then, this is probably a discussion in the business meeting, when we look at this kind of stuff and say, hey, go back and get some dimensions.
Apologies on our end for not asking that. The setting bed for the bluestone, is this looking to be concrete, sand?
Sand, it'll be number 9s, limestone.
I think, so with the bluestone, obviously, brick pavers have a lot more joints, not necessarily pervious in nature, but not impervious. Bluestone, a lot less joints. And with the sunken nature, I mean, it just retains at the site, the water on the site, but it looks like it's trying to shed all the water back to the rear.
Yes.
It's the question, is there enough space there to not shed?
So what I was thinking as another option, too, so all the water isn't just draining down there. Have you heard of easy joint sand at all?
The
It's a
polymer?
polymer
Yeah.
sand that it's permeable, so lets water drain through it.
Mhm.
We do install all of our patios on an open grade base. So we do 6 inches of 57s, great for drainage as opposed to the 411s. So that easy joint works really good with that application. Almost acts as a giant French drain underneath.
We've allowed it before.
I'm fine with it, I just see the trend, and I want to try to make sure we're ahead of the trend.
Yeah, no, I did think about that
Yeah.
too. We can definitely use that.
So if there's any way to help with the new grade, if it's gonna be basically grading it out to the fence, if there's any way to kind of try to keep it maintained.
Yeah, if we use that easy joint, we can try to keep it more a level patio. It doesn't even have to be sloped.
Any other questions from the commission?
So are we amending this at all, or?
I think it's just the clarification of the joint compound. With final dimensions to go to staff on the application.
Okay. GV 2308-024, I move to approve as amended with clarification of what the joint treatment is. And sand bed
Yeah,
and sand bed.
yeah.
And for the submission, further dimensions to clarify exactly dimensions of edges, et cetera, from the property line.
Second.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? The motion passes.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it, guys.
Real quick, go back, anybody here for 307 East Columbus Street? On up? Oh, okay, not you. All right, so we'll keep on going. On to item number 6, GB-23-08-025, 382 Beck Street. Once you're all settled, if you'll please raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
Please state your name for the record.
It's Christopher Gahn.
Cool.
This is, the proposed work description is landscaping for a tree removal. It's the removal of a non-native Siberian elm tree to the ground level. The tree stump is to remain. The plant is serviceberry tree per submitted site plan near the location of the removed tree. The replacement tree to be 2 to 4 feet tall. The staff analysis is that staff received an email from the applicant regarding the tree removal on June 19th, and staff informed the applicant of what information will be needed to complete their application. On June 29th, the applicant provided additional details, additional photos, and an arborist report. The application was placed on the August agenda. At the August business meeting, the commission had no comments or requests for information. The staff recommendation is that staff recommends approval with any and all clarifications to be submitted to HPO staff for review and approval prior to the issuance of the certificate. The basis for the staff recommendation is 311613, standards for site improvements A.
Anything else to add?
No additional comments.
Questions, comments from the commission?
Done.
Hearing none, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, on item 6, GV 2308-25, 382 East Beck Street, I move to approve as submitted.
Second.
Any questions on the motion? For really motion, is the application correct stating that the replacement tree would be 2 foot to 4 foot tall?
I believe so. Is that correct?
That was what was originally quoted to us, although we can find a larger tree, based on availability.
Asking commission with the tree being taken out is a lot larger than that.
Well, that's just the size of the sapling, right? It will eventually be a.
Yeah.
Oh, 2 inch to 4 inch, okay.
Also, two,
I'm reading it as foot, and I'm like, foot is probably tall. If it's 2 to 4 inch caliper, that's the diameter. Okay. You good? All right, just want to clarify. It's a tiny little tree. All right, so we have a motion, we've got a second, and just to clarify, it is a 2 to 4 inch caliper tree, not tall. Any questions on the motion beyond that? All those in favor? Aye. Against? Ayes have it, motion passes. Okay, thank you, thank you. Item 7 was withdrawn. Item 8, GB-23-08-027, 1034 Yeager Street. Sure, here, sure. Once you're all settled. Please raise your right hands. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and the truth?
I do.
I do. Thank you. And your name, sir?
John Piper.
Thank you.
Edward Liang.
Thank you.
Julie Bola.
Thank you very much. Nicole?
This proposed work description is for a new construction. It's a garage and living space. To construct a garage with living space above, the garage would have 2 aluminum garage doors in a carriage style on east elevation, fiberglass 2-panel man door on the north and south elevation, 1 fiberglass 2-panel door on the west elevation, hardwood siding, and the height would be 23 feet 1/8 inch, and the garage footprint would be 23 feet 8 inches by 25 feet. There's also a variance recommendation for the property. It's 3332.05 area district width requirements to reduce the minimum lot width from 50 feet to 29.81 feet for the existing lot. 3332.13 are 2F resident area district requirements to reduce the minimum lot from 6,000 square feet to 5,067 square feet for the existing lot. 3332.261, minimum side yard permitted to allow for a 1.5 foot side yard along the property line and leaving the required 3 feet for the existing home. And 3332.38G to increase the allowable height of an attached garage from 15 feet to 23 feet 1 inch. And 3332.38H to allow for habitable space over the garage. Staff analysis is the applicant applied for new construction and variance recommendations. The list of variances and the design for the garage were sent to neighbors on June 22nd, 2023, and was also sent to HPO staff for reference. A carriage house was previously approved in 2018 as GB-18-2-8. The newly proposed carriage, or garage, I should say, is approximately 8 inches shorter than what was previously approved and has door location changes as well as overall design changes. At the August business meeting, the commission had no comments or requests for information. The staff recommendation, staff recommends that the commission offer feedback and continue the application to allow time for the applicant to amend their design to be more in line with the German Village Guidelines and City Code. The basis for the recommendation is 311612, standards for new construction, A, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, and N. And German Village Guidelines, new buildings, garages and outbuildings, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, it's 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16 is all of them.
Whole alphabet and a whole number of systems. Anything else to add?
I don't think that was the correct list of variances.
Oh,
I'm wondering if either maybe, so this previously had a BZA variance. Okay, and then we, which was approved and expired. There are just 3 council variances,
okay,
which is right there on the screen.
okay, that clarifies. I thought the letter was amending that list, so the letter included the 2
I
additional.
don't, well, maybe,
I thought it did, but we can cross them off.
well, let me check that. So that's a good point. I didn't think it amended all those, but essentially this, oh, here's the revised, yeah. Essentially, it was previously approved, but now, just because of the way the city looks at variances, it's council variances instead of BCA. So, they originally were gonna do the work, I don't know if basically there's no kitchen, they're using it for their guests from out of town in association with this business.
For me and my work, it really helps my organization is so close to our house that we can house choreographers and artists. So we don't really need, they're gonna eat at our house anyway, so that we just need a space in the garage.
I remember this coming forward before.
Oh, yeah, I remember this. Yeah, exactly.
We went through all the approvals and everything.
A lot of discussion and got there.
We recommended the variances to BZA. Now it's gotta go to council. It basically is just reapplying, everything is the same, no
Exactly.
changes made.
Yeah, because it was expired.
Okay.
And, I mean, I'm gonna go with her list of variances because.
I mean, we can amend it if that's. do you
Well,
have-
of the variances on the agenda, it's only adding two that are existing conditions.
Yeah,
So
okay.
we've
yeah,
got no
perfect.
problem with existing conditions at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
So everything else is what we've previously recommended.
And the only other comment they did, on this, the second submission, they added a couple more windows on the facade.
Okay, let's take a look at that real quick.
You wanna, basically, and revise some here and there, so. We added it's mostly to the west elevation. We did a double set of doors. You can see that, and then we put I'll call them the people doors on the north and south elevation instead. So switched it around just a little bit there in the bottom. No windows, but doors. They wanted to be able to have access to the backyard through the garage, which I thought was a smart idea.
Other than that, no changes in the plan or anything.
Yeah, nothing has changed.
You can leave that one up on the screen. I'm gonna go jump back to the proposed, just so you can see one to one.
Wasn't sure what I'm second.
So,
Well, we'd like to, move forward with the variance process. That's essentially why we're here.
So north elevation added,
I guess it got skinnier to fit that double door in.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Did it get thinner? It's the one wing, west elevation got a little thinner, so you got room for the double door.
Oh, that flipped.
Yeah,
So-
moved
Oh,
over.
you just, okay. that-
Yeah, so the gable in that third image, it's on the left side now.
Let's see what happens.
So it's sort of transposed.
Yeah, we shifted it over to make it.
so the
Plantation.
plan did change, it mirrored
It's
Yeah.
right.
of the exterior. East and west, or north south.
So now the second image there on that right side door, it's the beginning of the staircase going up the habitable space.
We flipped the gable so that the doors kind of sat in a little recess like that.
So it looks like, the north elevation, which was the south elevation, essentially. The upper window
Yeah.
moved higher and went to a single pane versus double hung.
Yeah. Just to give more privacy
Yeah.
for the neighbor.
And then added the double door there.
Mhm.
And then the south elevation, which was north elevation, just added the door. A little bit of change things. Yeah. That works right there. It's fine. Any questions, comments, concerns from commission? All right, hearing none, I think we need to break this into two, one for the architecture and one for the variances.
Mr. Chairman, on item GV 2308-027, 1034 Yeager Street, I move to split it into part A for the zoning variances and part B for the architecture and et cetera.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Let's have the motion passes. Before we go to vote on the others, did we receive product cut sheets, everything last time around?
I don't believe they were included in the COA that's in the file. It's not saying they weren't received at the time, but
Okay.
they weren't stamped with the drawing, with the COA.
Are they typically stamped with the COA?
Now they are,
They weren't then.
but they weren't then.
Can you resubmit?
Yes,
Right.
we'll send them back.
All right.
So can I ask, did we send out notifications to the neighbors?
I did.
Okay.
She got copied.
We got that?
Yes, we got
Okay,
it.
Good call.
So on item A for GV 2308-027, 1034 Yeager Street, I move to recommend the variances.
Second,
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Ayes have it, that motion passes, they're recommended.
And on GV 2308-027, 1034 Yeager Street, Part B, which is the architecture, in compliance with the guidelines, I move to approve as submitted.
second,
Any questions on the motion? With the clarification, the product cut sheet, everything goes to staff.
Goes, yeah, absolutely.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Ayes have it, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 9, GV-23-08-028, 79 East Casa. Let the record show the applicant, one of two applicants, has previously sworn in. So if you, sir, once you're settled, if you can raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, whole truth, but the truth.
I do.
Please state your name for the record.
Kenneth Lloyd.
Thank you very much. Cool.
The proposed work description is an exterior building alteration to enclose a porch. To enclose a rear, the south elevation porch for a mudroom conversion. The door is to be a Therma-Tru glass door with transom. Exterior walls will be plywood panels with 1-inch molding. Existing column to remain and a beadboard ceiling. Staff analysis. An application was submitted for the enclosure of the rear porch on set at 79 East Casa Street. At the August business meeting, the applicant was asked to provide product specifications, heat proposed door and transom. And the commission requested a demolition plan for the existing porch and openings. The commission requested staff provide relevant COAs and any Sanborn maps. Staff has provided Sanborn maps, photos from 2001, and a 2001 COA for rebuilding the front and back porch elements. The work to the rear porch included replacing existing lattice and woodwork, replacing foundation and wood post, replacing 6 by 6 feet of tongue and groove flooring, replacing wooden steps and installing a square spindle and rail, and painting all repaired and replaced wood. Staff may support the enclosure of a porch as Durban Village guidelines do allow for enclosure of rear and side porches, but would not support the existing design. Design should be admitted to meet the following criteria. The enclosure should have as much window space as possible rather than solid walls. That's from Durban Village Guidelines, page 100. The design does follow the guidelines stating that enclosures should leave the original porch as intact as possible to maintain its original character. And enclosure should be constructed behind the original porch columns so that columns are made visible from the exterior. Staff recommendation, that staff recommends that the commission offer feedback and continue the application to allow time for the applicant to amend their design to be more in line with Durban Village guidelines and city code. The basis for that staff recommendation is through 11611 standards for alterations 1, 2, 3, 5, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Durban Village guidelines for porches and stoops 1, 2, and 3. And Durban Village guidelines for new construction entryways and porch enclosures. There's a quote there from the guidelines, as well as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Anything else to add?
So we're looking, we just want a little more interior space. It's also allowing them to access a powder room, not off the kitchen. So it's a very small enclosure. We would like to keep the paneled walls just because that provides space for coats, that kind of thing. They see it like as a mini mudroom. So that was the intention of doing the wood panels rather than windows. It's not, I mean, you can see, you know, on the little vicinity map or site plan that I've included, it's pretty much closed on all sizes. It's a pretty small lot. There's really nowhere else to go. So we think it's very minimally impactful.
Questions, comments from the commission?
Got concerns about the fact that you're knocking another hole in the masonry, closing another one up. My opinion is, I think there's other design solutions that would get you a half bath in that space without having to do that. And appropriately enclose the porch, but just, I'm just not comfortable with that kind of demolition.
Any other questions, comments? I'm okay with the enclosure in this specific scenario, being obviously landlocked. There's nowhere else to go with it. It's minimal. I do
It
share,
doesn't need to be opaque, it can be more translucent than what it is. And it can be set back and respect more the original porch.
I mean, it's the neighbor's like garage right there, so it's,
But we're looking at historic preservation and maintaining the character of the buildings.
yeah. I thought if the intention was that if you could still see the remnants of the original porch and fill it in a way that it clearly looks like infill.
Yep.
That would be considered appropriate. That was our.
feel like we've done,
I did a similar thing on the park on Reinhardt over there, so that's much bigger, but similar idea.
But one way, I guess.
Are the panels recessed or raised?
Recessed. It's centered on the existing column and then the panels are recessed.
I feel like we've approved panels on infill. I know some of the heartache we've had in the past was when you had little inset porch on the side of properties that were kind of common down here. And then paneling that over, I think that had been a concern. I feel like you're wrong, but I feel like we've paneled in porches of this nature.
And I agree, and I don't subscribe to the concept that it has to be set back behind the column.
So you don't agree?
I don't, no, because 50, 100 years ago, they wouldn't have bothered.
It's more about the header that's above.
Yeah,
the
lining up
center.
with that.
Yeah,
if
I mean, that's what places the wall.
Yeah.
I think I showed that.
I still have a problem with knocking the hole in. I really do.
Yeah, I think you,
I think you can come up with another floor plan that would get a half bath into that space and utilize the space differently. You're redoing the whole kitchen anyway. I think my recommendation would go back and take a look at figuring out a better way of doing it.
Thoughts from commissioners, specifically on the door opening?
No, because it becomes interior space. But yeah, I think it's kind of a shame to be able to restore it in the future
Yeah.
if somebody wanted to.
I mean, it could be, yeah.
And I'm actually okay with the solid panels, just because it's such a small wall.
If I may, commissioners,
Yeah.
for an application that I was staffing at the time, we did have a similar incident where, there was addition going to be added onto the building. And the windows were going to be opened up, and the brick was going to be removed. At the time, there was review, based off it still being exterior space. So that was reviewed in a similar manner, even though it wasn't enclosed space yet, it was still reviewed as exterior space.
Yep.
So just a reminder on that.
No. I side with Ned on the door. It goes back,
Just, yeah.
it goes back to is the architect, is the design driving the need or is the need driving the design? I think there's other architectural solutions, layout solutions.
You mean for the powder and door in specific?
Yeah,
I mean, I showed him a lot of different options. And the whole intention is, I mean, the issue is not having your bathroom door off the kitchen. And I mean, there's very little, because he's got these wonderful tall windows and, we did consider other options, let's just say that.
But a half bath off the kitchen is not that unusual or that horrible.
I mean, could we separate it into A and B, the enclosure?
Well, if that wasn't on the table and they just built the enclosure, and then at some future date, they found the whole thing and nobody knew about it, because it was interior space at that.
Yep.
I will say that I won't go on the record and say that should be done. I will say that is, if there was no door, the kitchen was not being renovated, the intent was just to enclose that porch, and when it came to us with the design to do that, I would not be opposed to approving it in that way.
But right now, the intent is to knock a hole in the wall.
Right now, the plan shows the door opening as part of this application. And while it may seem like a moot point from an applicant perspective, we have to treat all applications the same. That's our issue. We can't open up the slippery slope door, no pun intended.
Pardon? What do you want to do? Are you willing to?
I'd have to rethink the whole thing.
Yeah.
I think you gave me 7 different alternatives, some quite dramatic. And, but, I mean, it's a tough one, to consider that, the door to the powder room right into the kitchen, is always going to be just that.
And then the layout too is the issue of the kitchen with that.
Yeah, that little room that comes off, the appendage essentially that comes off the back of the house there.
Could you hide it as part of your cabinetry so that it doesn't look like a door, a secret door to the powder room? See that?
Just, and I would just say the rest of this house is so wonderfully detailed, the foyer, a lot of original trim, the dining room. We looked for other locations to put a powder room, that was better located. And to me, that it just wasn't the appropriate thing to do to the house. It just would have ruined some really beautiful architectural details. So that's how we
In Massachusetts, the powder room is right off the kitchen, right next to the back door, just like that.
So I've owned the home since 1982 and I've done one renovation, but I've always held extremely close to everything that's original. And, living there for over 40 years, I like the idea of maintaining the appearance and everything. I came to a meeting here recently when another neighbor was going to paint a 15-year-old or 20-year-old beautiful brick home black. I came here because I thought that was a bad idea. And so I thought this proposal was pretty good, respecting the appearance and so, I mean, I understand your point.
Yeah, and I don't want to shoot myself in the foot here, I'll put it that way. But being interior space and interior walls, did you look at taking that whole wall out between that back space and the kitchen?
But isn't that the same?
It's interior, I'm giving you a way out.
Okay. There's a chimney there too. He's saying this, take this out.
That's something we might object to, but we can't really, not as much as the building envelope.
He's saying, so what they're saying is because this is outside now,
Yeah,
putting a window, opening into it is a negative in their mind. However, because this is interior to the space, it's a whole different story.
so remove that wall. And so what's that?
I
I go home and chew myself, but
So if I could ask one question first, and then I'll make a recommendation from my perspective. First question, don't have the full floor plan, the door in the top right corner, is that going to the stairwell or the closet?
Basement, yeah.
Basement?
The next one's the foyer.
Is the basement actively used or is it just more?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Full basement,
It's actually a nice German village basement.
dry,
It's dry,
Very
it's
rich.
tall, it's unusual.
very fortunate.
And I was gonna say, if that wasn't, that was necessary to have that door there, you could potentially rearrange the
I
kitchen.
try.
But,
Lots of openings.
I'm in the same boat with my addition, so I get it. My recommendation would be to continue the application. So you can go back, take a look at what you want to do with the plan, to resubmit the plan to us, so we could vote on it. That would be my recommendation.
You're not gonna get them. It's not gonna pass. I mean, your other option is to have them vote, and then you can appeal. That's your other option. To
We can
another board.
vote. If it's denied, you have 3 courses of appeal. If you continue, you can go back, you can redraw the plan in a way that would be something we could approve for that enclosure. Then we could come back next month and vote on it.
But the guidelines always has been to protect the envelope of the building. We let windows come out and turn into doors, but that's about it. Even though we've deviated from that. But that's the basic concept of the guidelines. Inside that envelope, you're free to hatch it up, so.
I don't know, what do you think?
I'd continue it. Let's talk about it.
I'll follow your suggestion.
We'll go ahead and continue
Okay.
that. All right.
Mr. Chairman, GV 2308-02879 Casa Street, I move to continue.
Second.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor? Against? Ayes have it, motion passes. All right, moving on to item number 10, GV-23-08-029, 838 City Park Avenue. An applicant for 838 City Park.
Yeah. I'm sure that's what it on.
Yeah, I don't even say there was a chance. Sure.
We'll just hold that one until later and we'll continue if we have to. Moving ahead to item number 11, GV-23-08-030, 819 Mohawk Street. And if you please raise your right hand, you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes, sir.
Please state your name for the record. Your name?
Kelly Wingard with Muth and Company Roofing.
Thank you very much. Paul?
This proposed work description is for an exterior building alteration to remove 2 chimneys. To remove 2 chimneys from the north elevation roof, and then roof over the location of the removed chimneys. Staff analysis at the August business meeting, the commission asked the applicant for the reason the chimneys were proposed for removal, and requested any historic photos or history of the chimneys. The applicant provided that because they lead to nothing inside of the attic, they are major leak points. The building has a total of 5 chimneys that come through the roof, and they are only trying to remove the 2 chimneys that stand roughly 1 foot off of the roof deck. The applicant provided an additional photo as well. Staff checked the files and there are no COAs for chimney work. There are photos from 1975, 1991, and 1995 that show the chimneys at their current height. HPO staff would not support the removal of the chimneys if they were defining architectural feature. HPO staff would support rebuilding the chimneys to the same height as the rest of the chimneys. The staff recommendation is that the staff recommends the commission offer feedback and continue the application to allow time for the applicant to amend their design to be more in line with German Village guidelines and city code. The basis for that recommendation is 311611, standards for alteration 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and 12, and German Village guidelines, page 108.
Anything else to add?
The chimneys are not being used at this time. They're basically empty. They are, the foundation of those chimneys, those 2 chimneys only are disintegrating on the inside. So what I wanted to do is bring it down to the roof line and then deck over top of it and make it a clean. Right now, currently they're leaking.
Are they leaking from the top, leaking in from the flashing on the sides?
Did you see a picture of those things? May I share this?
Sure.
This is probably a better photo than what you currently have. they're toast. So all I'm trying to do is bring up the property value as far as trying to make this project work properly.
Questions, comments to the commission?
Can staff keep this for the record?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So I would say probably we're not gonna let you take them down. Whether they're functional or not, they're historic elements. Take them down, they will never, ever get built back by the current owner or by a future owner. But if we leave the stubs there, maybe someday somebody will come back and restore the chimneys to the full height.
Then how do I stop them from leaking? I mean, I can shingle around them, I can flash up to them, I can do all kinds of stuff like that. It looks like the one on the right that you can see, it looks like someone put some sort of tin over top of it, to try to shed the water.
And your owner needs to do some maintenance.
Understand, I mean, that's what he's trying to do by replacing the roof and getting everything, you know.
Yep.
That's a rough building. I mean, it's.
Yeah, it looks it.
And it looks like he's done repairs. I'm not sure if he has or it was the previous people, but like some of the window openings and stuff like that were changed. As you take that photo down just a little bit, I'm just trying to clean it up. I mean, that's the main thing for me is that it's a clean roof and I can warranty it. And at that current state, I don't know that I can do that.
So is it, if the chimneys as is were,
All I'm taking them is just down to the roof line. You know, once that's done, I'm not doing anything to the structure of them beyond that. All I'm basically doing is taking off a couple dozen bricks.
I understand your position on that. The issue is, just like that last application, if once it's inside, you can take off the inside of the chimneys, support them however you want. That's not in our purview. We have no control over that. All we have is control over what's on the outside of the building. If the chimneys with the remnants that are there go away, the historic reference that those were there in the first place go away.
The amount of money that would take to rebuild those chimneys is just absolutely crazy because the foundation of those on the inside of that attic are gone.
If someone was to come to us and say that their brick wall is leaking, can we take the brick wall down? We wouldn't do that either. It scale issue, yeah, chimneys versus walls, different scale, but the envelope is what we have to, is what we're looking at. To re-mortar, re-tuck point the brick, redo the flashing, put a cap, solid cap on top.
Can you zoom into that? I don't think tuck pointing and that kind of stuff is gonna help that.
No, it needs to be rebuilt.
They can be rebuilt the same height they are. Put a
Whatever
cap, stone cap on top, I think, to seal the top of it.
Looks like someone put peel and stick on the one on the right.
Yes.
Poor maintenance and neglect.
He's not. You know, this thing has been all kinds of different things. I mean, way back when it used to be a brothel for crying out loud.
Yep, it's notorious.
But I just want the building to survive. And if you look inside the attic with what's going on there, that's not gonna. I just thought it would be better to take those down to the roof line and they're an eyesore.
Nobody's arguing with you. Unfortunately, again, as Chairman said, take them down, we've lost any evidence that they were there.
So you're wanting them to rebuild, or at least to the height.
Can't ask
that
you
they
to
are.
rebuild them, but would not let you probably take them, remove them and take them down.
Okay, then I need some sort of, what should I do with them then? What do you suggest?
So if there's a way to repair, then repair. If it's rebuild, it would be rebuild. It's up to the applicant what they want to do with it. We're just not going to let it be
But
remove
you
completely.
can rebuild it exactly as they are now. We're not asking you to restore the chimneys back to
Correct.
their former heights.
I don't know if they were ever very tall. I mean, if you look at some of the other photos, there's some massive chimneys there.
Well, I'm sure they were as tall
But
as,
those were just, I don't know what the heck they were, but.
I'm
uh,
sure they
I
were
just
as
know
tall
they're
as the
rock.
other ones.
Yeah, and I mean, those need work as well, but I mean.
Oh, yeah.
it's-
My guess is if there's chimneys on the other side of the roof plan shows a couple chimneys over on the other side.
Mhm.
They probably were that same height.
Mhm.
We
Absolutely.
don't have the historic record to say what height they were. We know that this is the height they are now. This is what we would say they need to be. If they want to go taller, I think that's up to the applicant, up to the client, if they want to go taller. But as is, they need to be put back in the height that's there.
Okay.
And the options, we can continue application, let's talk to the applicant, to the client. We can amend to rebuild or repair, whatever you want to do. If they're not repairable and you need to come back and request for rebuild, we can deal with that. If you want us to vote on it and get the denial, that opens up the path to appeals.
And hardship.
Financial hardship is something that we can take into account on appeal. We can't take into account on the first hearing, the first ruling. So it opens up some paths beyond just this meeting.
I think my best bet would be go back to the client and see what his temperature is as far as possibly having, I don't know what the heck to do with those, but I mean, maybe investigate a little bit more. I'll take photos of the insides of them so you can actually see those as well if I have to come back to you all. I think that'd probably be a better avenue.
Okay. So we can continue the application and then I'll put you on the agenda for next month.
Yes.
GB 2308030819 Mohawk Street, the chimney issue, I move to continue.
Second,
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Ayes have it, motion passes. Moving on to item number 12, GV-23-08-031, 819 Mohawk Street. Same, different applicants. If you both please raise your right hands. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And please state your name for the record.
Amanda Stuckey with Mode Architects.
Thank you.
Ryan Keener, Mode Architects.
The proposed work description is for landscaping for an outdoor patio. To install a new fenced-in patio per submitted site plan. Staff analysis is after the August business meeting, the applicant was asked to provide information on how the fence will connect to the pavers of the building, but it's now realized it's concrete, so it's concrete at the building. And if the designing will be seasonal. Staff was asked to provide any city constraints on outdoor dining. The applicant provided the fence will connect to the concrete sidewalk, and the connection from the fence to the concrete will consist of 4-inch square, 1/4-inch thick attachment plate with 4 removable lag bolts or similar. And the fence will remain year-round, but furniture will be moved indoors seasonally. The applicant also provided their application materials for the sidewalk dining and provided the city's outdoor dining requirements and restrictions. The commission has previously approved a permanent outdoor seating area, and then one example is from 2013 with GV-13-5-24A at 262 Sycamore Street. The CRA was issued following a 6-0-0 vote from the commission. The CRA included the installation of a 3-foot wrought iron fencing anchored into the existing concrete sidewalk to create a 320 square foot outdoor seating area. Staff recommends that the commission discuss the fence addition as a permanent alteration to landscaping for the property, as the fencing is not proposed to be removed seasonally. As the commission has approved more recently seasonal patios, but those are on brick paver, so it's easier to remove seasonally. Staff recommends approval of any all clarifications be submitted to HBO staff for review and approval prior to the issuance of the certificate. The basis for that recommendation is 311613, standards for site improvements A, Durban Village guidelines, fencing and walls 2. And just, we did have, that I passed on to the chair an email from a community member that would be read when chair is ready.
Sure. Anything else to add?
The client just wanted to note that it's nothing different than they've had the past 3 years. The only difference is the addition of the fencing to enclose it, and that was due to, during the pandemic, they had the ability to do the sidewalk dining. He also noted that during the pandemic, and these are his words, that it wasn't required, but he did consult with the German Village Commission and got approval for the temporary sidewalk dining at that time, and that was in May of 2020.
I'm going to read the letter that was submitted, and then we'll open up to the commission for comments. So this is from Ethan Ortman. It says, greetings. I hope his email will be shared with commissioners prior to the meeting today, as I'm unable to attend. Thank you for the opportunity to provide comments. Dear German Village Commissioners, as an Old Mohawk restaurant neighbor, I recently become aware of their proposal for City of Columbus approval of sidewalk dining within the public right-of-way. While the existing temporary COVID-related seating has been permitted without going through the standard city review process, making this permanent is a big change to the Mohawk restaurant. And I believe this approval should be delayed until there is a more opportunity for public notification, review, and possible input on this. If I understand the drawings included in the proposal, there will be 6 permanent tables, 18 seats on the sidewalk, which is a substantial expansion of the Old Mohawk restaurant. It will be also permanently block off portions of the busy sidewalk area in front of the restaurant. When a similar proposal for sidewalk seating was made in 1995, there were many concerns voiced by neighbors, and the proposal did not end up being implemented. While attitudes regarding this may be very different today, the restaurant also agreed at the time to certain, quote, good neighbor policies, which included later in the morning trash pickup, which they did do for some time, then returned to the early morning pickups, e.g. 4:15 a.m. this morning. In summary, this is an important proposal that will have a noticeable long-term impact on the surrounding neighbors, and I suspect many people have no idea this is being proposed and that they have an opportunity to provide input on it. If there are neighbor concerns, it is also a rare opportunity to sit down with the restaurant manager to discuss these concerns. Therefore, I think a delay of 1 month for approval of this application is warranted. Thank you for your consideration of this. Ethan Orban, 834 Mohawk Street. Questions, comments from the commission?
So a couple of questions. The enclosure that we've got over, I can't remember the name of the restaurant.
On 6-1.
Chats, thank you. We didn't bring that up, but that was also one, but that's a temporary one that's approved.
Yes, it is temporary and it's installed on brick pavers, so they remove the brick.
It comes
pavers.
down for the winter, goes back up in the spring. 6th Street Cafe is permanent. 185 is permanent, I believe. Okay, that's number 1. So then we also said this was previously discussed with us before, and I do not remember that.
Jason? This previously discussed in 1995, that was before my time.
Yeah, mine too.
But what I was mentioning was that the owner informed me just today that he met with the German Village Commission members, or at least that's what he said, in May of 2020, prior to the install of the temporary seating during the pandemic.
Don't remember that, but.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
it's
So-
just,
I'll give you my feedback. The village is all about pedestrian walkability, et cetera. The impact of this layout on that sidewalk in front of Mohawk is awkward and, I'll be honest, god awful. It is disruptive to the flow and really is taking advantage of the good neighborliness of the village and what it means, et cetera, to increase the dining space of this area, and I don't think that's appropriate. I think you need to go back and refigure out how to do an outside layout, which I have no problem with, but something that's conducive to an even flow of pedestrian traffic coming south and not going north along in front of this.
may I make a comment in relation to that?
Sure.
We did explore a layout where it was divided and the pedestrian traffic would flow through the middle. That led to some liquor license concerns. We did pass these drawings in front of the Columbus right-of-way committee or commission, whatever
Yep.
they're called. And they did give preliminary approval on this layout, and they did approve the distance for pedestrian access on that sidewalk along Mohawk Street. It's actually greater than.
And I'm sure
The
that it's
distance
all
that they
compliant
require.
with code and everything, but you come around and you've got this 90 degree and then a 90 degree bend around here. That is so awkward and so uncomfortable for people walking. It's an effort. It is even walking dogs. It is, I find you're taking advantage of the goodwill of the neighborhood by doing this. And I think the design is not appropriate for what the village is all about. I have no problem again with dining out front. Absolutely love it. But I think you need to be much more concerned and much more knowledgeable about pedestrian traffic and what is actually the context of what's going up and down on Mohawk Street, in relative to what you're proposing. That's just my opinion.
I would say my comments, so 262 Sycamore was brought up as a permanent installation. That's on the property. That's actually inside their property boundary. So I go back to where do we have these in public right-of-way conditions? And I think that the closest in nature to this situation is the Chapman's,
Yeah.
which is a seasonal for some of the same considerations. The other one I know that is public permanent, I believe, is the 185, which is very narrow. It's only 2 tables wide. Long bit.
Neither one of those disrupt pedestrian traffic.
Correct. So to be permanent, I think is my biggest hurdle. I wouldn't get past myself. Seasonal, I think, is a different conversation of doing it. And then the question becomes, is it appropriate for this site? Meet code, yes. Is it appropriate is what we're looking for. Any other comments, questions? Thoughts?
But would you be willing to wait to get more neighbor input?
How would that process work? Or what would that look like?
There's no form of notification.
There's other variants.
I would say that following this hearing, if the application were continued next month, following this hearing, this would be notified to the email writer that this was read into the record. I'm sure there will be neighborhood communication about it. If no one shows up at the next hearing, then that's the opportunity to come and be heard.
I think regarding the alcohol thing, you have to put a fence around all 4 sides of it.
Right.
Yep.
The concern about the pedestrian traffic, that's because the grass area to the bottom of the page, right? That the sidewalk is going to the left, right? And then there's the grass to the right, right? And so when I get to what the proposed fence in this plan, I have to make the 90-degree turn, correct? That's your concern? And also
That's my only concern.
Okay.
Come down a little. The other way.
Yep.
So see where the handicap ramp is?
Mhm.
We're walking down there and now I have to walk all the way out to the edge of the curb and around your dining area and then back in to get down.
Right. We did specifically raise that concern with the city and they felt that it was a non-issue.
This is,
I know, I
it's a
understand.
design issue for me.
Mhm.
It is a design issue, not a code issue. It's a design issue. And I don't think it's respectful of the context of what the pedestrian traffic is on Mohawk Street.
Do you feel that if the page north corner were more eased and not so sharp, is that?
No, you are pushing people out of the way so that you can put dining there.
So may I ask what are you suggesting? Are you suggesting that it's split?
I think you
the-
need to move your dining all the way to the east side and put it on the curb.
So we'll allow the pedestrian. access to
Outlet in New York.
Yep.
That's how they did it in New York. They got the same liquor license and stuff. People walk back and forth, the waiters are back and forth between the front door and the enclosure. It's interesting at times. The pedestrian traffic is even more forceful in New York. It's back and forth.
And then to the subject of the seasonality of it, right? It being seasonal, right?
My preference is I think it ought to come down and get out of the way for the winter, but that's just
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Having the fence up for the sake of, I'll say, convenience for the applicant. I think it's, to me, it's a taking of public space.
Yeah, I think the owner might be amenable to that idea. He was in, he had the idea that the wrought iron would be more acceptable to the commission versus a temporary fence, so we can take that back to him.
The fence style looks great.
Right.
So on Chapman's, they do use the wrought iron. Is it wrought iron or is it aluminum? Looks like wrought iron.
I think it's actually steel.
I think so. They take that up and down, panelized. So I think the fence that's proposed is just perfectly acceptable. The question here becomes, how does it anchor? If it's gonna be a base plate with 4 bolts, what's that anchoring in the sidewalk look like? We're on concrete as opposed to brick. It's a different conversation, I think. I think it's not as problematic to be on the concrete. But I think they made a good point. If that could be pushed to the street, allowing the pedestrian to kind of drew a line from the 88 warning pad down to the adjacent property to the south. It allows that pedestrian flow to run straight through. That mitigates some of the issue.
Yeah.
And typically, we would require fencing to be, or any kind of landscape fencing to be stepped back from the curb. You've got no parking at a certain point up to the curb. We probably want to understand what that distance is. And if C does go to the curb, what does that do to the parking in that location?
Right.
Don't think there's parking.
I believe that
Just
you can see a
necessary.
car right there, that signage is shown in the drawing, so once the curb turns back in is where parking begins, I believe.
But I would say that if it's seasonal, I could probably get myself to agree to, okay, it can be up against the curb.
Yeah, me too.
In this scenario, not every scenario, this scenario I think would be an acceptable alternative.
Okay.
Basically, you got the pedestrian flow in that picture.
On the left, right?
Yeah, it's on the left. It's working. And I get the fence, I get the alcohol thing, but
Right.
yeah, I get all that stuff.
Could we perhaps get some feedback on the proposed furnishings?
Sure. My opinion, it's seasonal, goes up, it comes down.
Okay.
Got no problem. Tables, chairs.
We did want to get umbrella color. He would prefer red. Does the commission have any problem with that?
Nope.
No.
Okay, great.
No problem with color, and it goes with the awning, so I got it.
Okay, that was his intent.
Oh,
So do we continue?
continue.
Yeah.
Is there a motion?
Yep. We can bring it up.
I do it. Item 12, GV-23-08-031, 819 Mohawk Street, to continue the application at the request of the applicant.
Second.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Against? Ayes have, the motion passes.
Thank you.
And then so next month, coming back, and then the neighborhood input, that would just be up to the neighbors to make it to the,
Go up.
to this meeting. Correct.
Is it possible for us to get a copy of that letter to share with the owner so that he can understand some of the concerns?
Step, get that to you.
Sure, it will include the comments in the minutes that you'll receive, but great.
Thank
And I
you.
apologize for getting emotional, but the pedestrian thing is important.
Oh,
Yes.
I understand. You're not a problem. Thank you.
Thanks. On to item number 13, GV-23-08-032, 780 Lizelle. Applicants for 780 Lizelle. Once you're all settled, you raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And please state your name for the record.
Sue Grant.
The proposed work description is for landscaping and hardscaping. To remove 2 trees from the side of the property, but the trees were removed during construction of the addition. The existing large tree is to remain. To install a bluestone patio set on concrete to gravel bluestone patio. Install solid stone steps, install 170 square feet of gold vines mulch, install a 6-foot tall wooden fence, plant a boxwood hedge, a Texas hedge, and the soft deciduous plantings per the submitted site plan, and to also plant the list of planting that's in the agenda for the submitted site plan. The staff analysis is that in 2021, the commission reviewed and approved an addition to 780 LaSalle Street. The COAs for GB-21-0005-240, GB-21-11-029, and GB-22-06-025 are included in the materials. Now, the applicant is applying for the landscaping of the property. When the application was submitted, tree removal was not a part of the application. Removal of the trees without approval was brought to HPO staff attention, and staff recommended to the applicant to include the tree removal in their landscaping application. The trees were removed during construction of the addition, but the tree removal does not appear to be a part of the approved designs. At the August business meeting, the applicant was asked for additional photos of the property to clarify if the steps were existing or new, and for elevations of the proposed wall. The applicant provided 2 additional pages of site photos and photos of the site from the architect. The applicant clarified the steps are new and that there is no existing hardscape outside of the house, so all hardscape shown on the plan is proposed. The natural grade in the backyard is low at the house and higher along the east half of the yard, and where the large existing shade tree is. In order to not disturb the root system of the big tree and to meet the existing grade along the eastern property line, we are proposing steps to accommodate the grade change. The applicant also clarified that the wall was previously approved and attached to the COA of the approval. The wall is not included in the landscape application. The staff recommendation is that staff recommends that commission offer feedback and continue the application to allow time for the applicant to submit their design to more in line with Durham Village guidelines and city code. The basis for the staff recommendation is 311613, standard for site improvements A. The Durham Village guidelines for walk, sidewalks, driveways, patios, and parking lots 1, 2, and 4. And the German Village Guidelines for Fences and Walls, page 117 and 1 and 2.
Anything else to add?
No, I think that's it. Do you have questions?
Questions, comments from the commission? I will make a comment, and I know in your reading that the wall is not part of the application. I do want to clarify that it says on this set of drawings that there's a stucco wall, and that is not part of the initial application that's approved.
Okay.
The original application said brick, so when we go back and talk to the client, make sure that they're aware not to stucco the brick wall unless they want to reapply. Unless I'm missing something on the previous applications.
Are there replacement trees going in for the 2 that were taken down? Or the-
Yeah, I kind of added up the calipers, inches. And it's probably like 40 caliper inches worth of trees that we're putting in, so it's a longhorn.
So rather than 2 big trees, it's a.
Yeah, there'll be 2. Well, there'll be a couple of trees that are like, we're hopefully gonna get like 5-inch trees. Caliper, I don't know, it depends on the trees we get, they could be 4-inch. And then outside of the gate, those are at least a couple of inches. And then the horn beams are generally, I think, maybe 1.5 inches, 1.75 inches is what is usually available when we get those.
You know what type of trees are taken out, just for?
One was a pine, kind of over by the, kind of a tall scraggly pine. I think the other one was an oak. It was pruned up maybe at least 30 feet above the roof line of the house. I did see it when I first arrived. We did plans looking at various ways of keeping the trees and working around them. We ended up the client selected a plan which did not keep the tree, but somewhere after we did the approval, they got removed, and then, so we added it to this.
Curious, why would you take the tree down?
Well, I think we looked at keeping it, and using like gold vines around it and building up a patio around it. It was just a personal preference of the client. He preferred the one where he could have more green than what was being provided by the tree, which was so high limbed up. A lot of the branches you see there are from the other big tree that's behind it that we're keeping. There are some branches there, but mostly that picture. And that picture is, that pine looks really good in that picture compared to the time I saw it. It didn't have half of those branches. So I don't know when the trees were pruned up, but the pine looked fairly bad when I saw it. And the other tree, it didn't look newly pruned up, but the branches were really highly pruned up. It was just the poof on the top.
Typically, just for record, for explanation, when large trees come down, the question is what was there? We're taking down shade trees. The goal is to put shade trees back. We want to keep that canopy intact. We're losing a lot of the canopy in the city, much less the village. So a pine, with a shade, pine goes away, okay. Oak coming down would ask the question, well, what have we lost from canopy cover? What's going back? How do we offset the loss?
I think the two trees that we're putting inside the courtyard, if you added even their newly planted canopy width, it's probably easily as wide as, well, it might be close to what the old one was.
Okay.
Those other trees that are where the pointer is on the outside of the fence, those were long gone before I arrived on site, so.
Yeah.
And the one tree that's shows up in the construction pictures, that one stayed?
Yeah, the really large one at the back of the property. That one stays.
Okay.
It's a big oak. There had to be some digging close to the roots, and they had an arborist come out and look at it. He was confident, tree is healthy and good, it'll be fine. So they'll probably do the systemic fertilization in the fall.
Cool.
Okay, thank you.
I do have a question about your bluestone pavers. So reading in your notes, said in bluestone, set on concrete. It looks like that area just outside just north or east of the chimney. That's recessed from the rest of the grade?
Well, no, actually, that's kind of on grade. So the grade climbs as it goes east.
Okay.
So typically, the grade in the backyard is kind of the same grade as at the sidewalk, kind of all the way through that core between the jut out of the house and the sidewalk. That's all fairly much on grade with what it would be if you step down from the house. But as you go towards the east property line, it raises up because of the tree. The big tree in there is actually way higher than you would think. And so the reason we put the steps in is because we just didn't want to dig it down, because then you'd have to have a wall up against the property line.
So the issue I'm seeing, this is just from a contractor structurally perspective, you're gonna have that large bluestone field area, essentially one grade might slope a little bit to the east. You've got higher grade to the south, you've got a building to the west, you've got higher grade to the east, and now you have a brick, stucco, whatever it happens to be, solid wall across the north. Is there water retention happening? Is there any kind of drainage being installed? What's going on with, because you got
Yeah.
concrete base, so water's going.
Right. And even if you didn't have the concrete base, the water's not going through, right? So the water is generally draining towards the steps. And then the gate won't be towards the bottom. So the water won't have, like if you get 6 inches in a rain in an hour, the water will just go out the gate naturally, right? But it's generally sloping towards the step, and we'll have a good drain right at the base there. It could be a French drain if it needs to be. We don't know if we could even connect out to the street or not. So we're planning on providing some good drainage, like sub-drainage in the areas. Even over by the tree where the water slopes towards the house in that area, we're gonna provide, near that window well, we'll provide some rock. They had to dig deep next to the window well anyways, so that's a logical place to put some clean rock so that you get some water in there.
Yeah, the intent of the commission is really to retain as much rainwater outside as possible, obviously. We don't want to be taking non-porous surfaces and just shedding the water out. our infrastructure can't handle that. So
Sure.
whatever we can do to maintain, to keep it on site is the goal. And whenever I see large patios that are recessed, where's it gonna go? That's the question.
Yeah, and that one actually isn't recessed. That one is actually on grade.
Right.
Yeah, and
Recessed in terms of structures around it.
what's
keeping-
next to it,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Right, right.
So there's a 3-inch, not to beat this to death, but there's a 3-inch white slot drain at the bottom of those steps?
Yeah, and
Okay.
we haven't decided exactly what that's gonna be yet. It is some sort of drain. I think ideally it would be to take it out to the curb. I'm not even sure we have the height to do that.
Yeah.
If we don't have the height, we might have to do a French drain. Yeah.
That should take care of it, I think.
I'm okay with it. As long as we have a plan for what we're
Yeah,
gonna do.
yeah,
I just didn't want the city street
yeah.
sidewalk being the option.
Some of the rains we've had lately.
I don't have a problem with the rest of it.
I'm good.
I think I just had a question from a business meeting, somebody asked, like,
Sure.
the fence, what was the previously approved fence? And what you-
I don't know that it was ever
There was no fence.
approved. I don't think it was submitted before. The fence will probably it'll probably stay up through construction, and at the end, we'll take it down and then just put it back in the same place, and it'll just be a nicer looking fence. I can't remember. I think it might be a shadow fence now or something, but it'll be a nicer looking fence. Your basic top and bottom rail with vertical boards.
So I'm understanding, on the site plan. Which fence are we?
So the fence only goes from there over to there and down, and then just hits the house right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the fence that's being proposed there is on,
It's inside the property now, I believe.
Yeah.
And so we'll put it back where it is currently.
so page 7 of the application, that fence detail. Is that what is planned?
Yes.
Okay.
And how tall is it?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that hasn't, so I'm an old fashioned draftsman, right? So that's a match line, the two little squiggles with
Yeah.
the 2 lines. So that's really a 6-foot fence, but I didn't want to draw out the full 6 foot high.
6 from grade.
6 from grade, yeah.
And did I see a photo that showed it stuck?
I thought there was a
stuck on the wall?
photo. I think there's a photo with a,
I think it's stuck over, is it?
no, not there. That's different. Go to the inspiration photos, I think. They might have, up, right, down. Oh, maybe I didn't. I thought I put a fence.
I think there's a block wall there before.
Oh, no, that's not gonna be a fence. That's gonna stay. That's the thing that you were questioning. That's not in this
Right.
proposal. They already got approval for that.
So that wall is gone?
Well, it is now. They had to take it down for construction. I think they tried, I don't know the story about why it had to come down, but they were gonna keep it, and then it's something, they found out it wasn't stable. I don't remember, and so they took it down, and then they're gonna put it back exactly like it was. But better, because before it was painted concrete block.
It was paint heavy block. The previous application, COA, called that brick. And that's why I wanted to clarify what was approved on the COA was brick. So what's on this, we're gonna basically strike from the application. I don't think we're gonna approve.
Yeah, mine is,
Yeah.
it's actually not included in my application specifically, yeah.
Okay. Any questions?
Anything, anybody?
If no questions, is there a motion?
GV 2308-032-780 Lozelle Street, I move to approve as submitted.
I asked for a clarification that the wall along the north side is not part of the application.
Correct.
Second.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Ayes have it, motion passes.
Thank
Thanks so much. All right, moving on to item number 14, GB-23-08-033, 786 Jaeger. Applicant for 786 Jaeger. Before we jump into the conceptual, let's go back and check the two that we passed over. 307 East Columbus. No 307 East Columbus. What about 838 City Park? No 838 City Park. And we are on to item 15. Lane 9 East Eschler. Just check while I come up here. Jensen back, are you here for another application or anything? Just no. Okay. Join the show. All right, item 15, GB-23-08-034, 189 East Eschler. If you both please raise your right hands once you're settled. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
Yes, I do.
Your name?
Talia Friedman.
Will Lanert.
Thank you very much. Cool.
This is proposed work descriptions for new construction. To construct a new 3-season room in the side yard to the east of the existing house, proposed rooftop patio. The room is to be 18 feet 9 inches by 18 feet 9 inches. And the room height is to be 15 feet in height and 17 feet 6 inches at the chimney height. The roof and gutters to match existing house, aluminum screen panel with wood steps, and a stone foundation. It's also to construct a new covered pavilion at the pool, the pavilion to be 10 feet 8 inches in height and 14 feet 6 inches with the chimney included. The roof and gutters to match the 3-season room, and the column detailed to match the existing at the front porch. There's also landscaping to install window boxes, planter boxes, box edges, a magnolia tree, a tall evergreen edge, box edge for submitted drawings, and to relocate a lamppost. Staff analysis, at the August business meeting, the commission requested the applicant simplify the drawings, show what was proposed and what was existing, and ask for any information that could be provided on historic additions to the property, and staff have provided standard maps. Between 1921 and 1951, a rear brick addition was added to the property on the southeast corner. In a 1977 CO application, the applicant claimed the addition was built 40 years prior, so approximately 1930s, 1937. The 1977 COA was for the demolition of that addition though, so. In a 1999 COA, the applicants were approved to build a new addition to the property, and plans are included. Photos from 1986 are included as well. The commission has approved a freestanding outdoor fireplace previously, but it was a prefabricated steel with GB-20-12-037 at 578 South 5th Street. The commission also approved an outdoor fireplace at 595 South 3rd Street, but this is for a commercial dining space. Staff recommendation. Staff recommends the commission offer design feedback that can be utilized by the applicant to further refine their proposal for review at a future PDC meeting. The basis for the staff recommendation, noting that there is no action required, is 311-611, standards for alteration 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Standards for new construction, A, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, and N. Standard for site, or 311-613, standard for site improvements, A, and German Village guidelines for additions 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Anything else to add?
Yeah, I wanted to just talk through a little bit about where we decided to put the addition. I know there was some feedback at the business meeting about putting it at the historic bay, that original bay on the structure. And so I just wanted to discuss that a little bit, where we decided to put it. We are touching the edge of that bay. So when you see it from the street, the bay is still visible, that one wall of the bay is still visible, and it is actually, it runs all the way up the house, so it would still be visible even with this addition. We're trying to touch it as lightly as we can, as you can see in that hyphen that we have there. It notches back in order to create a hyphen, and we're not, we have no plans to break through that wall in any way. The windows would remain as is, and so it could very feasibly come off pretty cleanly, and not affect the existing historic structure.
Questions, comments from the commission?
And I'll just throw it out there, you're significantly covering up historic material, historic architecture. Guidelines say you're not supposed to exceed the width of the building, you already had an addition out there, that's fine. But to do it more so, upfront more, I can't, I'm sorry, can't get there. It's substantially impacting the architecture of the original building.
I agree with Ned.
I think the sunroom, needs to be in the backyard.
Looking at the architecture being expressed, I was trying to get a view of the home. It's blurred out on Google Maps, but it shows on Bing Maps. And I can grab by.
Because you don't write it.
There you go. Multiple sources. With the decorative railing across the top, all the detail on the column, it feels more ornate than the principal structure. Anytime we do any additions, which would include porches, screened porches, whatnot, from a architectural perspective, it should be subservient to the principal structure. I think the detailing is making it not. I think the chimney of the fire pit is massive, substantial. We compare that against the chimney of the house, very tall, slender. I think it's not communicating well with the architectural language of the main structure. It's trying to say, hey, this is me, here I am, and it needs to not do that. And being so proud of the lot towards the front of the lot, obviously it's the side, but towards the front, it just amplifies that. And being along Deschler, you're up on an elevated grade, it just compounds what the architectural language coming through right now. That's my main concern with it. How it touches the building, what are we doing for, it'll be part of the details of how you connecting, how you supporting it, what's the structure going to be. Obviously, touching up against it can be freestanding versus not. Is there a gasket around it? How do we not impact the historic? If it touched back further onto that 1999 edition, I mean, obviously you're going to lose some square footage, but touching 99 edition has less heartburn for me than touching the 1901 or whatever it is, principle. I've got no problem with the pavilion as shown. It's very similar to the 159 dash that we saw last month. So I think there's precedence for that. I don't see any major problems with the landscaping. It is a lot of hard surface, so I think some of the conversations of the previous couple applications about, I'm assuming bluestone, water retention, trying not to shut stuff off, a lot of land, a lot of lot. How are we addressing that?
It's actually less pavement now than it is currently. So that's nice.
Yeah. To me, it's just that porch, how it attaches, where it attaches, and what the architectural language is.
I think also maintaining the negative space that's the next to the house there is important.
Yeah, the hyphen for the first edition has been lost.
Yeah, but the whole side yard as part of the whole construct is important.
And the rhythm of Deschler is large
Yeah,
principal
very.
structures with large yards opposed to other portions of the neighborhood, which is very small, very minimalist, close together. Putting this addition on is basically, you're only a couple feet away from the adjacent, which is not typical of those properties.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, I do think there is a neighbor a couple doors over who has a side three-season room, not unlike this one.
So if you come back for other applications, it'd be good to have some of that documentation, just photos of where they're at.
Then you'd be walking down the street the other way.
165's got it out the back. 147's pretty back from the facade. The other ones are tight.
Is it that?
I think it's a sort.
One other thing I noted when I was looking through it, couldn't quite tell, but it looked like there were some, I think, cluster of 3 trees at that location. Page 16 of the application shows 3 trees that look like they'd be taken out. 2 of the 3 at least. Don't know what kind they are, don't know what size they are. I really can't tell from the street views to determine that.
They're very small. I mean, they're redbud trees, which is that understory tree.
Okay.
It's not
Not an oak or something.
There's nothing like that. It
Okay.
removes, yeah.
175's got a big side.
Well, there is a magnolia tree right in the middle of the proposed screen porch, right? So that's gonna be taken out. Again, it's not an oak tree, but it does have a canopy to it, right? So
Yeah, so we're taking away canopy. What are we doing to
I
mitigate?
think we're gonna want to plant some more magnolias or something. We have 2 new magnolias being placed in between the actual streetscape and the addition, so 2 new magnolias. They're not labeled because it's a conceptual review, but that's what we're thinking.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anybody that's got a side addition that far forward on the property that affects the math like that.
It is still about 20 feet back.
But all the other ones are in the back half. Similar to what the original addition is. Which, okay.
If it was smaller, could it,
Nope, I'm not, no, I'm not gonna go smaller either. I just don't think it's appropriate for you to be filling up that side yard or covering the architecture. That's just me. You have to other people to. Yeah, I think that side yard's important. I think that negative space to that massing is negative versus mass is always important.
And it's a slippery slope. I'm not sure where to go down it now, but the question is it the intricacies, is it the chimney mass versus the detailing of the porch that's making it read so in your face? Is toning it down, would that help? I don't know. I'm not gonna say it will. It's
Go back to there shouldn't be anything built there.
yeah, that's sad. I'm just trying to think of, can I get myself to a point of accepting the positioning of it? I'm not sure I can.
There's nothing else on that street that's got anything that far forward. I'm filling up the side yard like that.
I feel like it wants to be back, you said it wants to be back behind that first.
Yep.
Bump out,
Yep. The first bay.
yeah, the first hexagonal piece, which is where the addition got built.
It wants to be behind the addition.
The prime spot's already been taken. by
The prime
addition.
spot's been taken. Yeah.
right, we had explored different places for that addition. We had one off of that second bay, the 1999 edition. We also had one sort of in that corner beyond the addition where the hyphen is to the garage living. And this is just what the owner liked the best for their use.
If I was picking just citing purely on citing, to me, it's that piece where the outdoor kitchen is. That seems to be the natural place for it. It puts it back in the rear. Yeah. Look at something very much real quick.
Just notice, are you adding window boxes to the front facade that weren't there before? You don't have any historic evidence that there ever was window boxes there before?
I don't.
I don't think we've ever allowed that either.
It's.
Just another, no, I'm not sure if this is make a difference at this point, but just from an interior standpoint, the current location of the proposed porch, in any other location, it obstructs a lot of the light that's coming into the house, and in this location, it doesn't as much. And so it doesn't affect the quality of the house inside as much. Especially later at.
It has a really big impact on the exterior.
Mm. Is there a world where there's a connector, like a flat roof connector piece, and then, you know, the addition happens a little further away from the house, so it feels like an accessory building? Is that completely out of?
We've had some like that, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think additionally, the fact that you're filling up that side yard
Yeah.
and get rid of the negative space, which is
Mhm.
so important to those houses that have it. I mean, that's a quality that none of the other houses in the village have, is the property around those big houses. And some of them are cheap by jowl. But there's 3 or 4 of them there that have got big side yards on them that just is so important. That add to the elegance and to the architecture of the house.
And I vaguely remember many years ago, somebody wanted to put window boxes on a house that never had them before. I said, no, unless you had evidence that it used to be so.
It's gonna be tough to find out.
So, I saw somewhere on the application that there's gonna be a proposed rooftop patio on top of the porch.
Yes, there is currently a walkout from the primary bedroom. It's just a little porch right off the bedroom, so the door is already there, and this would just extend.
Would this require railing, full height railings, or is that?
No, the floor level of that is actually lower down. Yeah, you could see it's dashed up there. So the roof provides the roof.
Gotcha, cool. And that's kind of, so a piece of that is, I get what you're doing with the roof architecture to minimize a railing just sitting on top of the roof. Guidelines state that porches should have simple roofs, low slope, flat. So it's kind of using architectural language against the guidelines to prevent a condition against the guidelines. So we've got to balance that when we look at it too.
Yeah, it was also a privacy consideration since it's off of their bedroom. The
It
office
shouldn't be
bedroom.
called a porch, just because you called it a three-seater room.
Yeah, it's really an addition of what it is. It's a 3-season addition. As opposed to a porch. And when if we go down the road of addition, that goes back to the siting of attaching off the side versus off the rear. How do we treat that? This coming off of that, the widest part of the bump out is not really speaking to trying to keep it not connected to not be read.
Yeah, I guess I kind of agree with that the placement of this proposed room is sort of negating everything that the first edition was trying to do. It created the hyphen, visual hyphen before it got to the addition, and it was maintaining the side yard space. So this placement just sort of covers up the hyphen and it's occupying the side yard.
So aside from that feedback, is there anything else you want us to give you a specific feedback on?
The rear alley has an existing retaining wall made of timber. On top of the wall, there is a fence with the existing fence with a lattice. I proposed a number of properties along this alley, and we've had discussions about the height of the fence adjacent to the retaining wall. And as of now, we have a 5-foot tall fence with a 2-foot lattice or something on top of a 22-inch retaining wall, 24-inch retaining wall. So if we were to replace the fence as it is currently built, would that be okay? Even though it's a 24-inch retaining wall with a 5-foot fence. So that's a total of 7 feet. We're just replacing exactly what's built. There's site photos on the, you know, you can see what's there.
To me, if you're just.
If you zoom in on those bottom 2 photographs, I mean.
To me, if you're replacing what's there with similar height.
We're doing exactly that. The fence is completely rotted. It's almost falling down. The climbing hydrangea is holding it up. So we need to address it during this construction project.
We did that once before on South Fifth. It was a 7-foot high fence that we let go in because it was exactly duplicating what had been better for.
If it's like for like, I would rule against it.
Okay, just want to ask that now.
Not normally a fan of the slotted top, but I think in this case, it helps keep it from being so overpowering anyway, so.
I agree. Okay.
Big house, big fence.
That's it, as far as my end.
They didn't want to put a carriage.
Was that?
Surprised they don't want to put a carriage house back there.
Oh, yeah, right. They all. House up the street we're working on. See. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you much.
Continuing the others.
You go back and continue the others. So you go back on the top. Item 3GB-23-06-029. 370 Splendor Street. We're in motion to continue.
Yep. I can find it. On GB 2306-029, 307 East Court Street, I move to continue.
Second.
Question on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Against? Ayes have it.
On GB 2308-029, 838 City Park Avenue, I move to continue.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any question on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Ayes have it, motion passes.
On GB 2308-033, 786 Yeager Street, I move to continue.
Second.
Any question on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Ayes have it, motion passes.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Question on the motion?
Third.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Against?